Yeah, that's a good logo. All right, we're live. Bam. In the studio, Team Early as Fuck podcast. We've got Alex Rolfs here from Baseline Performance. We're doing episode 1 of Open Talk, and we're going to be covering all kinds of topics through the October CrossFit Open. What is the Open for listeners for people listening to the podcast that might follow more of the hunting, the outdoor, the food topics I have. This is going to be along the lines of the health fitness component, a lot of coaching, a lot of psychology of things I care about. And with Alex co-host and Steph as a co-host, we're going to get other coaches on, other people that are in health and fitness, talking about the Open, what it is, and why we think more people should get involved. So with that, Alex, sir, you want to give, it's been a while since you've been on the podcast. Do you want to give everyone a quick intro, who you are, what you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. I think when you first started Team Early as Fuck, those first few podcasts was probably the most that I was involved with you. So that was probably the last time that I did a podcast with you. But yeah, for the listeners, my relationship with you has been in coaching and coaching fitness, and particularly the CrossFit space at CrossFit Stevens Point, being the head coach there. Get closer.
Yeah, get closer to your face.
The group fitness space, that's been like my calling for the last 5 years. So that's what I do on a daily basis, is work with athletes in functional fitness, regardless of what their goals are. And then the other avenue now is Baseline Performance. That's my coaching business. And that kind of fell in line with my experience as a coach at CrossFit Stevens Point. So I write program designs, fitness programs, and I do coaching for individual athletes, whether it's the CrossFit space or someone who just wants to learn more about exercise or has whatever performance aesthetic goals, like you kind of name it. If I feel like I can have a relationship with someone as far as fitness goes and help them towards their goals and they're the right fit, like that's what I'm doing now. So it's been kind of a fun journey to see where I was when I started, and now where we're kind of taking things with my own business. I wasn't someone who ever really thought that I could own my own business and do something and have something like Baseline, but it's been cool to kind of see the slow, gradual evolution of what's going on now. But yeah, I still have the same kind of passion and love for what I do at CrossFit Stevens Point and with Baseline, and I don't see like those things changing. So yeah,
I love it, man.
That's it.
The idea of starting a business, because I'm right there with you, and I love it because we both kind of came up with this idea of team right around the same time. You have my team. For me, it was Team Early as Fuck, because that was like my life for 4 years. Waking up fucking early, coaching, training, personal training, plasma donation, when I could every week. And that was just the grind. And we kind of, came up with our own coaching philosophies and methodologies, around the same time, where we were challenging each other, growing, learning from each other. And it's been cool to see the same thing with the business. And I always have to remind myself, with progress with the business, growth, learning, I want it to be this thing, and I get a lot of good feedback, and I have this vision of what I want it to look like, and then I get frustrated because I get frustrated when it's not there yet. And then I have to remind myself, business growth is just like, my fitness, my health, my training progress is a little progress is progress. Slow progress is progress. So constantly reminding of myself of that in the business space, because in the gym space, I'm constantly having to remind people of that who are just starting out, who are a year or two into training, and they keep comparing themselves, or they have this vision of what they should be at, but they're only a year into like structured training. So yeah, when you mentioned that, it resonated with me, as I'm, I think we're both, because you started Baseline, and I think I started the podcast and kind of the Team Early as Fuck platform around the same time. So going on year 2, right?
Yeah, it's kind of funny to see how all those things were put together between me, you, and even Emma with her business Rising Tide. I think, like, for me right away, it was just like Baseline was an extension of like me as an individual, like the brand. And I, not that I have like a crazy following or anything, but like in this area, in the Stevens Point, Central Wisconsin area, like through time and experience with coaching and working with individuals or working with other coaches, it started to be something that I couldn't ignore, and I wanted people to see and have a following of, okay, like these are the experiences that I've had in fitness, the experiences that I've had in coaching, and I want to be able to share them more than just on like a personal page or like one-on-one with someone. I wanted people to be able to identify with a brand, with a style of coaching and how we do things in this, how I do things in this area. I think people gravitate towards brands like that. They want to be a part of something like that, whether it's for me or, for you. And that's kind of how it starts, like on a small scale like that. And then from there, like you said, like I'm totally with you on, you have this, I guess, vision for yourself or expectation, or you look at other successful companies, maybe it's, in the same field as you or not at all, but you have to be okay with making little steady progress over time, and know that like whatever that end result is, or that successful company that you see, that's years away, and like you need to be okay with like the day-to-day processes that you do for your business, for your clients, which is something that I'm starting to having a better like appreciation for, like these interactions that I have with my clients on a day-to-day basis. If I really give everything that I have to those people in that moment, I give them their full attention. I use my experiences, my knowledge with them to try to elevate them. If I can do that consistently over time, the rest can kind of slowly happen with some of like the business decisions and, potential other clients that we could be working with as far as exposure to those people. So yeah, that's, I totally feel and understand where you're coming from when you have expectations for yourself. So
I love that. You keep triggering me with all these things you keep talking about. So I thought I was having over the last few months, just the nature of coaching, leadership, teaching. I would put those all, anything where you're providing a service to people, you're talking to them, you're sharing your knowledge to them, not from a space of what you think they should learn or know, but from understanding them and then being able to apply what you know in this small little world that we live in. So the nature of coaching, teaching is giving, understanding, truly listening, understanding what they want, what they're interested in, what they want for themselves in their life, and then hopefully being able to help them with what you know. Something I've been kind of playing around with and thinking about is, you get in those conversations, those arguments, because everyone's competitive. That's your competitive edge is traditionally what allowed you to survive. There's that whole competitive edge and survival of the fittest from an evolutionary sense. But we get into these arguments and we always think later like, oh, I should have said that, right? That would have won
every day.
That would have won the conversation. And for whatever reason, I don't know when it happened, I'm sure I'll think back on it someday and realize like that was the moment or that was this big turning point. Maybe the turning point is all of these messages I get from people where they're like, "Hey, that thing you said to me really resonated," and I was like, "Oh, that was just something I said, not realizing how important it was to that person." But lately in my coaching, at the end of the day, when I'm especially Mondays when I coach literally all day from 5 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Is I have this sit down moment when I'm closing up the gym and thinking to myself, what could I have said that would have helped that person? What, like, thinking back on what they were saying, how they were moving, what the situation was, how could I have been more aware to what they were saying and how could I have helped them? That's kind of, and I fail. I'm human. I have many flaws. I'm selfish at points, but so I'm always failing at this and trying to get better. But that's something I've like you were just saying too with coaching is I've come to start thinking about where could I have said something that would have helped that person or made them feel better, or how could I have communicated more efficiently? So yeah, it's a wild ride coaching. It's crazy. We could I don't let's I think what we're gonna do with this is do maybe like 15-minute AMRAPs of talking points, and obviously we got started here with the intros, and I think really the idea of progress was really what this first little section was about. But with that, Alex, do you wanna conclude anything about progress before we move on to probably competition and the psychology of competition? I think that'll be the next one we go into.
No, I think that's good. We can move forward with whatever you want.
Cool. So I'm going to switch over to my other monitor here. We have the CrossFit Open starting. So, and you'll be able to discuss this a little better than I can, I think. But the CrossFit Open starts next week, the 11th, or is it the following week? That'll be the following week. But we also, October, we have started the Bullet Point Open registration opens today. So that's exciting. Shout out Bullet Point. I've got their page open right here. So if you're interested in what that is, we're gonna discuss both these competitions, what they are, and then we'll kind of go into maybe both our backgrounds on competition a little bit, the psychology and of how that's changed, and then we'll go from there. So, do you want to start with the CrossFit Open? How about you?
Sure.
Talk about that, what it is, why it's important.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's kind of a fun time of the year, and something that you and I have enjoyed for ourselves personally as athletes, or people just in fitness and being in the positions that we have, the coaching roles that we have. We get this opportunity to work with individuals on a daily basis, and it's opportunities like the CrossFit Games Open where we can use competition community events to, I guess, kind of rally our troops, our classes, our community, depending on how many people you're working with, to have the CrossFit Games Open test in this case. And what that looks like for us, it's a little different this year as far as like the timing of the year, which will be interesting, and that changes some things. But essentially a worldwide community event in the CrossFit space, but you don't have to necessarily be a CrossFit gym if that's something that you've wanted to try for yourself. But 5 weeks of one workout a week that is released by the CrossFit Games, and it is something that I don't remember what the participation rates are right now, but it's on a global level. I know you'll kind of talk about the bullet point competition, which is a little bit more of a local level. But, yeah, it's just a fun time of the year to kind of test our fitness. It's something that I've done, and the people that I've worked with, and at our gym at CrossFit Stevens Point, we've done that every year for the last 6 years, and it's a cool chance for our members to feel like an athlete again, to test their fitness in a lot of different ways. Being that we do train all year long, there's ways that we can do it inside our own walls, but to be able to do that, whether it's by, and we don't push leaderboards at people, but by using the leaderboard system through the CrossFit Games Open, or, I think more importantly for themselves to see their kind of progress, say over a year, 2 year, 3 years, and some people like you and me been doing it for 6 years. It's a cool way for athletes to see what has happened over time, and it gives them a chance to really, I guess, have something to train for, I guess, to peak for. But we're like any other year. It's something that I'm always excited about for the people that I work with. It kind of changes the pace, and I guess like the daily grind or schedule that we have in the gym, and it gives people a little bit just more motivation and dedication to what they're doing, to have something like this to train for, and a 5-week period of doing that, I think is a pretty extensive way of them showing that. So who knows what this year will kind of bring, with it being a little different in the season and having it be in October instead. But regardless, I'm just excited to, support whoever I can, whoever we can for it.
Yep. Before I get into the bullet point open, what I really love about the CrossFit Open. So back in 2011, or just any, the online fitness comps, the on-site fitness comps, is back in 2011, figuring out life. I've few years into losing all the weight and looking at and realizing like the power of competition. You need that goal, that thing, that why for why you're training or why you're upping that level. And at the time, all I was seeing was running longer and longer distances, which I just don't. It's not exciting for me. I give people kudos when that's like their thing, the endurance junkies. But for the vast majority of people interested in general fitness for life, it's just not healthy. It's not sustainable. So many people I see in the gym feel like a failure when they sign up for one of these events, and they realize like, oh, I don't have 2 to 3 hours a day to train for these super long endurance events. And then they quit. They feel like a failure because they weren't able to commit hours upon hours of training volume to get better at a triathlon or marathons or ultra marathons. And I'm not taking anything away from the people that prioritize their training and make the time for these things. That's awesome. I'm glad they're there for those people. Or it's the strength sports, which I love. I love lifting Harvey barbells. But once again, for people that are interested in longevity, sustainable health, I see a lot of people that pursue the strength sports as their passion. Once again, lots of love for them. That's awesome. I love seeing freaks lift heavy weights. Mm-hmm. But you watch them walk around. You hear their struggles with arthritis, when so many of the Iron Giants, male and female, are having these crazy surgeries later in life. And I'm just like, that's not, once again, coming back to the sustainable, healthy side of it, that's not something that a lot of people want to pursue or get into, or, just maybe not healthy, or they don't have the time to do that. And then there's what else we got out there? Triathlons, but that kind of goes into the endurance thing. It's cool to see something that's like the CrossFit Open, like the Bullet Point Open. That's for everyone, that you don't have to dedicate hours of volume training to. That if you have a great coach, they're going to steer you in the path of sustainable fitness, sustainable training. Hey, these are these tests. Let's have an honest conversation with where you are at. Where you are at. We are not putting you in a position where you're going to injure yourself, because at the end of the day, this workout where it's going to feel great. It's going to be like a confidence boost for you to get to that next level. But at the end of the day, you're a mom, you're a dad, you're a business owner, you're a teacher, a nurse, you're a surgeon. You need to be able to perform in that arena. And this competition is just a little extra something to give you that kick in the ass. But having that coach there to kind of, steer you in the path of sustainable health fitness, that's to me why I love, especially the Bullet Point Open. Is it's fun. It's a variety of things. It's not just endurance. It's not just strength. It's, I'd love to see more field component in fitness. To me, that as a performance coach is like I'm teaching people how to juggle at the gym. Like that was last summer. I implemented a 12-week juggling cycle. This summer it's been a 12-week balance cycle, balance beams, uneven surfaces, trying to incorporate that because I'm looking at all of these components of fitness that as I've coached, I've kind of neglected because you get this, CrossFit or the traditional gym training is very much here, stand in this spot and suffer or move around. And it's like we live in a 3D world. And so I want to be able to get people climbing up and over stuff, hanging and moving, all of the planes of motion, not just one spot. So, I just coming back to the Open, I love that it's available for everyone. It's a variety of fitness components. And that's why and the competition side of it, I just know that's good for a lot of people. Anything to add?
No, I think that's what I get excited about. When you were talking about the Open, giving any, regardless of fitness level or experience, giving people a shot to, and you don't have to say give them a shot to necessarily compete, win prizes, things like that. But I have, I work with people and have members that are really excited about this. And it could be a member who's been doing, fitness, strength, and conditioning for 10 years and has a high level capacity across whatever, strength, endurance, being able to control their own body weight. And then we have someone who could be, we had an athlete last year that was 2 weeks into it. And because our gym and our community was kind of bought into this event, they were excited about it too, and they enjoyed their first experience. They got to do something that they were uncomfortable with, see it through for what it was, and now that's something that they talk about pretty routinely when I'm working with them or personal training, where they bring that up and they're excited about the next CrossFit Games Open and being able to prove it to themselves, whatever their motivation is, but to be able to give that opportunity again to see what they can do. I gravitate towards that and have more fun with that when they make it about themselves, than necessarily doing the leaderboard thing. It's just kind of cool to watch over time and for a lot of different people. I don't think that I gravitate towards a certain style of or level of competitor or anything like that. That's not really my thing. It's just when I can see someone enjoy it the same way, from the same perspective that I can or what someone else can, that's what makes it more fun, which is why we support it. There might be some gyms that don't support it in the same way, but like from a business standpoint and like the energy in our gym and what I've seen at other local gyms is during that 5-week season, that's a really cool, uplifting, exciting period for the gym, and it drives up everything as far as like our membership. It's cool when people can buy into something like that.
Agreed. I love it's. Let's keep rolling. So we've got anything you want to add about the CrossFit Open?
No, I don't think so. It'll just be interesting to see how it plays out this year, like any year. But with it being in October this year, I don't think that it's something, even though we can tell ourselves that we're ready for it, won't be until week one until things are really underway. But yeah, that's all. I'm just excited to be a part of it and watch any athletes, all athletes, our athletes kind of take it on and see what it's all about.
Nice. All right, so moving on to the Bullet Point Comp Series. So Bullet Point is January. Registration starts now. I forget how many. So there's RX, Intermediate, Scaled, Masters, and Adaptive this year, and Teen and Kids. So Adaptive is pretty cool that's in there. And I forget the name of the gym. I apologize. That is kind of spearheading the adaptive part of it.
Could it be
for Bullet Point?
Oconomowoc or no?
Maybe. That could be right. But it's once again becoming inclusive. Everyone. It's for everyone, bringing that competitive spirit for everyone, and it's cool to see the adaptive part of it. But it starts in January. Registration is open today as of this recording, and for every 20 members signed up at your gym, you get 100 pounds in bumper plates, which is freaking awesome. So shout out John. I've got the screen up here. I wonder if it's in there. What gym? I don't see it. Anyways. So that's Bullet Point Open. Starts in January. It's 3 weeks, 4 workouts, and it's there's a strength component, a sprint component, an endurance, and then the hopper. So old school CrossFit, as in you don't know what it's going to be, odd objects, random time domains, basically whatever craziness comes to mind when it comes to testing fitness. Those are the events, and up until the competition, there's weekly giveaways for everyone in the registration. It's primarily a Wisconsin event. I'd say Midwest at this point. There's people from all over signed up. Last year, there were over 1,000 people entered, which was awesome. And it's just something to do in January when everyone's cold, miserable, and kind of, maybe a little wishy-washy in our motivation. But it gets everyone fired up. I know last year we did it was awesome to see the collaboration between D1 training, where I work, and then CrossFit Stevens Point with weekly Friday Night Lights being held at the different locations, heats of people, pizza, beer, fitness, sweat, a lot of discomfort. So it was cool to see all of that play out because the community side of it is something that's just awesome with local events or open events that can be done in that competitive spirit, kind of giving everyone a chance to maybe revisit that, because you get a lot of experience with that growing up, and then you get out of school, you get out of sports, and there's nothing in the adult world. It's the corporate grind, if that's where you work, or it's just, what is it? What do you call it? Work, taxes, death kind of thing that people have. They don't, there's nowhere for adults other than, like I talked about earlier, the endurance events and the strength events for people to have that competitive arena. And something like the Bullet Point Open done Friday Night Light style, you're doing your normal training during the week that fits your schedule, and then this fun Friday night event at a gym where you don't have to travel, it doesn't consume hours of your life, and you can still have that fun community event. Anything you want to add to community before we move along?
No, I'm there with you. I think like that convenience factor of the open and giving everyday athletes that are part of your community a chance to compete, to be a part of, if you want to call it a sport, to be able to have that again, if that's something that they haven't had in a long time. Like, we see that all the time with athletes that we work with. You can see it on their face when they're given an opportunity like that, and maybe people that you didn't think would be interested in something like that. We've found success in something like the Bullet Point Open or the CrossFit Games Open, giving them that opportunity to do it. And I think convenience plays a big role in being able to do something like that, that it's not incredibly difficult for them to be able to to be able to do this workout. It's clearly outlined for them, and having something like Friday Night Lights, if you choose to do something like that at your gym, I mean, it puts, I don't want to say like a spectacle, but having spectators and things like that being able to watch you, or family members, it can give them that feeling again, maybe that they were looking for in sports. But yeah, I can totally understand where people are coming from when maybe they've given up hopes on something like sport or being competitive again, because work and life and family and things like that start to take over, and any other opportunity outside of that, like playing a recreational sports or something like that, might not be in the cards for them because of limiting factors. I think that that's an easy thing to do, especially if you're a part of a community or a gym or something like that, like where we're involved in. So,
Boom, I love it. Yeah, that was good. So going into the last segment, then you and I, we were grabbing some delicious Ruby coffee. Shout out Ruby Coffee. If you want, this is gonna be a little commercial plug. Subscription coffee delivered to you monthly. Use code TEAMEARLYAF at checkout on their online store to get 50% off your first 2 months. How about that for plugging? But we were talking about injuries, the psychology of injuries, what people can do from their mindset standpoint to live around injuries, deal with injuries, and then rehab and progress out of injury back to activities of daily living and structured training. So you and I have both, done our fair share of self-injury with, pushing boundaries and the competitive mindset of people in general. There's so many ways to go with this, and we both see, we both work with people every day that the psychology of their injury becomes them. They come in and they're like, I have bad knees. I have bad shoulders. I have a bad back, or bad knees run in my family, or I'm a runner, so bad knees are what happens from running, or they brag about surgeries, like the people that they come in and they're like, well, I can't do that because I've had this surgery.
Yeah, it's like an end all be all.
Yeah, they've been told this narrative like, oh, you're injured, you had this surgery, you'll never compete again, you'll never be active. Just walk and rest until you die. That there's this mindset, and it's just drives me crazy. Or treatment is, sit on your ass, ice it, or ibuprofen, which also drives me freaking insane. But what's you're dealing with an injury right now. If you're comfortable about it, you want to kind of touch on that right now, and what's all going on in your head?
Yeah, I think it's allowed me to recognize and get a feel for people, and when I do start to watch it, and it use injury loosely, like setback or something really serious, being that we are in this space and these things do happen, and when we're competitive individuals and you're trying to push performance, these things happen, and when they do, it can really put a damper on you and how you're feeling, and people can start to look at this like in a really negative light, because you might be limited with something, and you might not be able to do the things that you love and be able to move towards being the person or the type of athlete or having the body composition that you want, whatever it is. If you're someone who sets goals like that, I mean, injury in sport can be pretty crippling. And what I've started to see in people, whether it's people that I'm working with directly or social media or whatever, it's that it's something that people are like kind of you said, they're taking and they're saying like, this is the way that I am, this is how I'm going to be, and I don't think that is ever going to change. And it's kind of like an end of discussion kind of thing. And, you know, you and me have had our experiences, like some setbacks or injuries, like pretty serious, some not so much. And we've been able to find a way to work around these things, improve them, and learn from them more than anything. And that's something that like I've taken away, and not say that I'm glad that, you know, I've ever gotten hurt or you have or anything like that. But I would say that I wouldn't change some of those injuries and what I'm dealing with right now. It's with this back injury that I've had. I think if you would have given it to me a couple years ago, the emotional roller coaster and that negative headspace that we see so often with people, that would be something that I would be riding right now. And it can kind of like drag into other aspects of your life. And then you kind of just have this crippling behavior or personality that you take to work or with your kids or whatever. I don't have that problem anymore. And it's something that I want people to understand and see, that when you have these limitations or setbacks like that, like use that as like a common ground, a place where you can learn from it more than anything. Challenge yourself to see, okay, like where am I at right now? What am I limited to? What can I do? Who can I seek out from a professional standpoint or a coaching standpoint to try to set the course to put me in a better direction. And I think like intuitively, like that makes sense to people, and they'll, you know, they know to do that for themselves. But then it's another thing to do that, but then like really try to take pride and enjoy this journey back to whatever your goal is, or like your ideal self as an athlete. Like that's what keeps me, I don't want to say motivated, but it keeps me disciplined throughout this process. Is like, okay, like this back injury happened. I have been reduced to limited movement for the past couple of weeks. I want to use this as a learning experience, whether it's, you know, learning new movement, whatever it might be, but to set like a course of action so I can come back and do some of the things that I love and be stronger and not let these things happen, and use it as like a stepping stone, to use it as more as like an educational experience to like bring for my athletes to steer towards them. But I think like the injury process like that, and what I'm trying to put together here, is that I don't think that it needs to be or should be, and it won't help you if you view injury and this setback in such like a crippling kind of mindset. Like I think that if we take it as a challenge, you try to use it as that learning experience, like I said before, and you become more process oriented, and you take, like we talked about in business, just like the little like day-to-day wins that you can have when you have an injury or something like that. Like that's what kind of keeps you going. And that's the same kind of wins that you have in the gym when you have a really good workout, when you are, you know, 100% and you're healthy. Like you need to take those little things and kind of ride that. And that's accumulating that over time. I mean, everybody's timeline for their injury is different. I mean, it could be a 2-week process. It could be a 6-month, a year, 2 years, man. Like, and it might be something that is with you forever. Like, are you going to let that bring you down and wear it on your sleeves and just be, you know, content with what that is? I think that people can still find a way to have a setback or an injury become a positive thing for them. And we've done that. Like I have people that I work with right now that injuries turn into be a blessing to them. They're, almost happy that it happened, as far as like the type of athlete or individual that it makes them now. It makes you pretty resilient. So I'm not saying that I would like go by and like smash someone in the leg or whatever, but those kind of individuals get to be pretty tough. But, you know, obviously if things start to repeat themselves and you're getting injured all the time, then we got to start looking at the playbook and what you're doing and where your head space is at. So that's what we were talking about, that's where like my headspace is at right now. And like I'm looking at this thing now, this injury that I have, or people that I work with, as like, okay, let's like look at this as an opportunity, like a good thing that it happened, and be excited to embrace, even though you think it might be boring or not in alignment with like the person that you are and the person that you want to be. You should be excited about that process and ready to give your best effort every single day to something like that. That says a lot about your character, and who you want to be. And that's a dangerous person. I'm not just saying like as an athlete, like when they do overcome something like that, like that's just, people tend to steer themselves towards those kind of people. If they can bring that to work or with their family or anything outside of that, just a really gritty, resilient person who, regardless of the situation, that they're going to handle it and take it head on with, an optimistic attitude.
I love that, man. I love the idea of, the journey and the fun part of training, of competition, of wellness, of health, the journey, and then realizing and taking that mindset to our injuries, to our setbacks. That's part of it, right? That's part of the overall journey, and remembering that when we're eating that shit sandwich, when life is like throwing, windmill after windmill at us, realizing like this is part of our journey. How did I get here? Why did this happen? Understanding it, accepting it, and then, like you said, taking that athlete's mindset and attacking your rehab, attacking your knowledge base, your training, attacking your biases, this potentially your comfort bubble that got you here, expanding that. This might seem mildly dickish at some point, but for me as a coach, as an athletic trainer, I have this sports medicine background, I have this performance background. I'm constantly learning, evolving the injury prevention, understanding injuries, the clinical side of things. I hear stories from people. Well, I went to this healthcare professional. They told me I just not to do it. Like I'm 30 some years old. I have to walk the rest of my life. This person told me, and I don't want to point fingers at any particular practice, but it's like this person told me, well, after this procedure, I'll never be able to compete. I'll never be able to lift, blah, 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 blah. And that's just life. It's like, no, there's so many more options available to you. Find someone who knows their shit and who isn't complacent. Like so many people are just like, well, take it easy the rest of your life. Like for me, it's always about when someone comes to me with an injury and that's the narrative they've been told, I start from listening to them, listening to what they were doing, listening to what they want to do, putting that together with my knowledge of that injury, my assessment of them. I take them through a movement assessment. This is what I saw. This is what your procedure. This is historically what the research is telling us to expect recovery-wise from this procedure. These are the best practices we can implement in your training, in your rehab. If you have a coach available to you, that's awesome. They might not have, my same educational background or whatever, but they're still going to be passionate. They're going to want to modify things for you. They're going to understand the human body. They're going to be like, well, this is the movement we have on the whiteboard. I don't give a fuck. This is where you're at. This is what we're going to do. And I want you to still bring that competitor's mindset, because I see people get injured that are athletes, and they right away think, well, I'm done. I can't go to the gym. I'm just not going to go to the gym because I'm not doing what's on the board. I'm not working as hard. Then you get I'm just doing this. I'm just like, no, this is what you need. This is why we're all here. Fitness is to make your life better. So find that coach, find that, that athletic trainer, that strength coach, that chiropractor, that person that's not going to give up on you, that's not going to label you as your injury, and pay them. I'm saying that as I love athletes. I love working with people, But for whatever reason, in our profession, some people are just like, oh, well, I didn't realize it was going to cost something. Like, I want to be able to do what I do for a living, like support my family, support myself off of it, and continue to get better. And that's going to require, you know, people that want to get better, that you want to be an athlete, like to pay your coach. And this is or a business owner paying its coach as well. Like this is, you know, obviously, like I said, I might sound like a dick for saying that, but even if they're your best friend, they're a great coach.
Mm-hmm.
Pay them.
Yeah, you can't put a dollar value on something like that. And I think in terms of myself, when I think of something like that, injury related, or if I'm going to do something that is going to directly benefit like the thing that I want, health or performance or whatever, and I know that there's someone in a field, or I know that there's someone that has the capability of that, or I have a resource to do that, like you can't put a price on that. I'll pay whatever you need me to get that, to elicit that kind of change and steer me in the direction that I need to go. And I think that's something that people need to like recognize and be okay with. And I think most people are. You know, it's not to say that like, you know, Bill and I think that regardless of your injury, like you need to get into the gym and move right away. Like every, like, right. It depends what's going on. Maybe rest is the protocol, but like what you're saying and what I'm saying is that whatever it is, if rest is the protocol, you should have a direction that you want to go, a rough plan outline for you to get you moving the way that you want to again, and be able to, you know, see it through day for day. Like it's not being a bedridden person or whatever it might be. Like that doesn't need to be a negative like thought process or cycle, that you are just, this is who you are, this is the path that you've been led to. Like if it calls for rest and that's what you need to do, okay, like then that's part of your,
and attack your rest.
Right.
Don't stay up. Don't stay up late eating shit food, being, oh, woe is me, I don't get to go deadlift heavy. No, attack your rest. Get your ass to bed early. No screens. Eat fucking healthy food. You know, whatever movement is okay. If it's a walk, go for that fucking walk. Make that walk happen. Bring that competitive mindset to your recovery. And I think a lot of people don't do that. They get injured and they're like, fuck it, I'm going to eat ice cream every night. I'm going to stay up late. It's a spiral, and not letting that happen when you get injured. Find people that can, you know, educate you. Make that part of your rest. Educating yourself on, hey, what's happening in my body? Why did this happen? What were my habits that led up to this? You know, what was my stress management like? What was my sleep like? Making that a part of the process is super important for that.
Yeah, I think that process is sped up much more when you are bought into something like that, or like it's active rest, or you're very intentional about what you're doing. You're still making the right decisions. Like that's a person who's probably going to have a better timeline to the things that they want than the person who isn't taking care of themselves or losing sight of what they truly do want to have. You know, I don't know what the research is on psychology and healing from something like that as far as like headspace, but I know that I have felt significantly better physiologically when my head is just in the right kind of space and I'm forward thinking and I'm doing an active day-to-day process of, you know, where do I want to be? How do I see myself? How am I going to get there? Even if it means that I'm not doing something like intensive or exercise intensive towards like that goal.
Yeah. So. I love it, man. Well, we got to wrap up here. It's almost 9:00 and I think D-Bell is in next. How do you want to conclude this episode? What do you want to leave people with?
I like that we finished on headspace in injury. Like we can't, like, that's something that I can't nail home enough. It's where I currently am right now. And I think that that's something that we all could honestly work on a little bit, and how we treat like that kind of process. I don't think anything more needs to be said on something like that, but yeah, I'm stoked for the season that we have ahead of us. I know we kind of talked about that. It's an exciting time of the year. Sometimes in the gym space, in the coaching space, functional fitness, it's a 24/7 kind of thing. Like we don't, you can go through different cycles of waves of programming and strength and conditioning and trying to bring excitement to your members, but it's events like this that we have coming up, the Open, being that it's like an annual thing. It's nice that way because we have time to train for something like this, and then we have this opportunity of 5 weeks to change. I don't want to say change things up because we know it's coming every year, but to really bring some energy back into the gym to create different opportunities. And it's like a roller coaster experience. You know, the first week is whatever. The 5th week, some people are still jumping and excited, and some people are like, okay, I'm ready to be done with this, and and then get back to normal training, and then you can shape the year for your clients. So it's after talking with you about this, it wasn't like crazy on the forefront of my mind, but now I'm excited.
All in, baby. I love it. Thanks, Alex, for coming on the podcast, and everyone listening, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next Open Talk.